on the bad actor litigation. Motion by Lynn, second by Charmel. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Mike abstains. Carol out of the room. Motion carries. Okay, the next item is the testimony. The John Harrison, the 2 letters.
Madam Chair, those are just some drafts with some bullet points for if you wanted to do testimony on Saturday. So I don't know if you need to take action on them, but I just want to distribute them to everybody so they were aware of what would be said.
Okay, does council have a preference based on the discussions? Martin?
I feel that Ryan's option was probably the best, and so I don't know which letter would be probably the passive one or the less. So
I think his suggestion was no testimony.
okay, well, that's my suggestion then.
I'd like to get council direction, because if it's my preference, I told you guys what my preference was, so I need council direction. Motion by Martin. Second. Second by Len. All those in favor? Oh, Rhonda?
Madam Chair, on this issue, perhaps it would be better to get a consensus in executive session so you don't telegraph your moves. Thank you.
The second in the motion.
I'll just ask that everything I just said be stricken from the record forever, and I will draw my motion.
Very good.
And we should probably delete our live stream and, go scorched earth.
Okay, next up, we have letter to Fish and Wildlife Service. Motion by Mike, second by Charmel. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. And the last one is the letter to BIA. Motion by Ellie. Second by Charmel. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Okay, we can come back to the other item afterwards as our 1 o'clock is here. So. Does anybody need a quick break? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break since we worked through lunch. We'll be right back.
I'm not on, my mute was on. I was talking to Ryan on the phone.
Oh, anyway, she said.
We could hear you, Rhonda. We'll call the meeting back to order. Next on the agenda, we have Mike Bauer. Okay, if you want to push the button on your microphone there, you just push it, it'll stay on. Okay, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes, my name is Mike Bauer, and I'm here today. I was invited by Madam Chairwoman to attend your council meeting, and like to thank you very much for inviting me down. And I'm here to provide any answers to any questions that you may have at this time about a subdivision in our Lee off of Powwow Road, adjacent to the grounds.
And do you have your map? Did you submit your maps and all that?
Yeah, I mailed them, and I believe I've emailed them, and I didn't download them yesterday, but they had been previously submitted.
Madam Chair, I didn't receive no maps. I just received his agenda request in the letter you sent me.
Okay, let me see if I can find them and I will forward them so that we can screen share.
And I do have a copy of a map, one of the maps here. I have about 4 copies, but I don't know if that'll help the folks that are on Zoom.
I can scan that one too.
Yeah.
This is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Janet, if you have them, can you screen share?
It'll take me a minute to pull them up, but I can find them in my Outlook.
I just sent them to Martin as well.
Oh, okay, that'll be faster.
So while we're waiting, Mr. Bauer called me last week to let me know of a 99 lot residential subdivision project located off of Powwow Road in Arlee. Asking us to comment on the matter. The subdivision will be serviced by Arlee, Lake County Sanitary Sewer, private shared wells with 7 0.5% of the area dedicated to parks. It's located within 1 block from the Arley Fire Department, within 3 blocks from Arley Schools, and is adjacent to the Powell Grounds Recreational Facility. The proximity of the subdivision will allow for affordable emergency services, school, postmaster, and other governmental agencies. The intent of the developer is to build affordable housing to retain a higher percentage of local residents while creating jobs and continued economic activity. Lake County planning staff has been supportive of the project. Will be consistent with their 2018 growth policy. So I believe it was the day before Mr. Bauer called me, I did get a call from Arley Volunteer Fire Department, who had met with Lake County commissioners regarding this, and they had very grave concerns over their capacity to be able to serve this area. Also, they had made a comment that somebody made a comment that they paid the tribe $4 million. So I would like to publicly get your comment about that. Like who paid who $4 million?
I don't understand. Are you making reference to who paid?
That was the comment that the Arley Volunteer Fire Department received in the conversations with Lake County commissioners.
Okay. I don't know what, I wasn't there. I don't know. I have spoken with and emailed with Charles Headley, who is the volunteer fire chief. The only information I have regarding, I don't know of any money, I mean, I have not exchanged any money. I have an option to purchase William Armstrong's property subject to getting approvals. And I have a deal with Mr. Armstrong, nothing like $4 million. The only information I've received after a couple of phone calls with Charles Headley was that presently the fire department, according to some study that they had, and this is what he told me directly, they are at 99.6% capacity of what's on the ground now. And even though some study says that they are satisfying the current need, it was only a month or two ago that a mobile home burned down because it needed to go back to it a second time with their tender because the water source was falling. Well, the second time they got there, it was gone. So it's nice that they have a study that says, you know, that they're almost at capacity, but they cannot service what they have. And I had asked him, well, you know, people have property rights, and I'm not referring to me, but everybody, and there will be other homes built within that jurisdiction. You know, it's too bad, but in fact, what's presently on the ground is about to be insufficient if it isn't already. And that and a couple of personal comments he made because he lives just adjacent to this on the east side. He's on Powwow Drive on the east side of our northeast corner. So but that was just, you know, personal. I don't think it belongs. It had nothing to do with the fire department.
Okay, so just for the record, you have not paid the tribe $4 million.
The tribe? No. You guys would know. But
what
no,
I
ma'am. Boy, no, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Wow, I think you should go ahead. I don't know what else we're to discuss. I had some things I would like, but you are entitled to, you know, it's your.
Oh, this is your presentation.
It's your council. Okay.
Go ahead, Ellie.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So In the letter provided, it says that the intent of the developer is to build affordable housing to retain a higher percentage of our local residents. That's all well and great in writing here, but how can we be assured, I guess, that happens and we're not inviting 99 other families in from California?
Right, because the higher the price goes, the more that's going to happen, or Washington. And nobody, unless the council here is going to guarantee the price of wood and steel, and you can say all the commodities are going to stay at a, and we all can't. The intent of this is, the one thing that will make this a little bit difficult to be as low as we wanted is that the sewer main that goes along Powwow Road on the south side, so it's the subject property side, it's only 5 feet deep. So we do have to put in a couple of pump chambers. We have to gravity feed down to the south end of it along there at the bottom of the map shown on the screen, and then pump it back to Powwow Road, because you have to have the sewer at least 3 feet deep to have cover so it doesn't get damaged. And it's only 5 feet deep now. And at a 2% slope, it only go 100 feet to the south and it daylights out. It doesn't work anymore. So we do have that obstacle, and those pump chambers are not cheap. And we have double the lines running from all the houses down to the south and then back north. So that will be difficult. But Lake County is, I've been getting support by the planning staff to not, because this is a major plat and not a minor, there are different standards. Like they can say, oh, we want you to have curb and gutter, and we want you to do these other things that are like, you know, that's a little over the top. But we're looking at still doing asphalt roads and open ditches and things that make the construction cheaper. To directly answer your question, you don't know. But we, with this many lots, the only house I know that's being spec'd, and I can be wrong because I went on, I think it was Zillow or Realtor, the only one in Arlee, and it's in between Arlee and Evero, is like 825,000. It's on 5 acres, and it's on the, if you're going to Evero, it's on the left-hand side, halfway there. And, you know, you can maybe try one of those, but you sure don't try 99 of them. And with this many lots, you have to get the absorption you need, you bring the price down so that more people can afford it. Also, in the lower price, if we get into a slower economy, which things are pointing again, because all the stimmy checks are going away, and that we had to protect ourselves, we have to stay low. So it's symbiotic. We have to stay low in price. I can't give you a price per foot right now, but the prices they will be much lower than any city in Missoula, and lower than Missoula County. And that's why actually I have done a lot of research and going through all the municipalities in the area and chose this part of Arlee because it is Lake County. It's a big difference. Thank you for that question. I'm sorry that one's really hard to field.
Other questions?
May I offer some more background? And then
Go
if
ahead,
anyone
Mike.
wants to stop me at any time, please. The things that I've already met with the postmaster and Melody, and we're looking at the center road that's directly across the street from Powwow Grounds main entrance. And there are a couple parks shown there. And we're thinking of indentations for the cluster box, so the postmaster doesn't have to imagine 90 homes all sprawled out on the hills around Arlee, which could be an alternative without planned housing. The postmaster would drive half a day. We're going to have cluster boxes there for the postmaster. We're going to I'd like your comment, please, at any time, doesn't have to be today. I will be proposing a stop sign on Powwow because of this many people, to have people going down Powwow unrestricted. We would be requesting stop signs across from Powwow grounds entrance, 4-way, and put a stripe, a crosswalk to bring across there, because we can have school children cross safely there, a place where the cars have to stop. Orange flags to pick up, to go across, safety measures, and a good place for the postmaster. Other things why this,
Good luck with that. We can't even get those on the Highway 93.
really?
Right.
Oh, because I heard something not long ago
Yeah.
about Highway 93. Well,
ahead.
this is, they are designing, calling this, they're reducing it from what they thought was going to be a collector road because to just a local road. And we're hoping that that's what right now they are weighing and making a decision on it, the planning. And they're changing it from a collector road because it dead ends about 1,000 feet to the east. And it isn't a collector road because it dead ends. And so, and actually Rob Eddington, the planner in charge, came up with the stop signs there. And I thought it was a good idea because this many cars and that, and actually Powwow Road is such a nice road. It makes you feel like you can travel it faster because it's so well built. I wanted to offer that up and see if you had any objection to it.
Don't we, Madam Chair?
Go ahead, Carol.
I said, I think we have objection to the whole thing. I mean, and I know it's private property, but it seems like that's a lot of homes for our Lee. And with the water in the situation that it's in now, I just don't know how this happens. And there's no longer any zoning. I mean, that's not even an option. You can just do whatever you want, whenever you want.
Is that a question? Or is
Yeah,
it-
I guess if you can answer it.
Yeah, I know there are no housing permits, which is precarious to say the least. I've never been in a municipality. I've done this in 4 states since '88. Done a lot.
And this is.
This is the first time I've ever seen other than Sanders County where I built my home.
Yeah.
This does not have inspections. It has routine photos. But in terms of the development, no, yes, there are standards. And what the seller, Mr. Armstrong, it's been in his family since the 1930s. And we've already got the approval letter from the DNRC regarding the 10 acre feet per parcel. See, they've been irrigating this and using water on this for that long, just under 100 years. And so that converts, you get 10 acre feet. And I'm going to be wrong on this, but you guys, it's like 0.28 is per residence for domestic consumption. If you divide it in, we have 3 parcels here. Some have 35 homes on each, last 35, 35, and 29. And so they're looking at converting that irrigation water into domestic consumption. That was subject to an approval letter from BIA that said we could still use the irrigation from gate number 8, I believe it is. And I've met Stormy and I've got the letter from the BIA.
Okay,
approval.
I guess the other question.
So that's the water.
The other question I have
Uh-huh.
is, it's not an incorporated city, is it? And so.
No, ma'am, it's not incorporated. You are
and-
right.
And so how does that happen where there is no police force, there's nothing, and you're bringing in this many families? It seems like there should be some opportunity for public comment.
Yes, ma'am, there is. And it is in the jurisdiction. It's not incorporated, so it's under the jurisdiction of Lake County.
And that's
'Cause-
scary.
Oh, okay. I don't have the
I
background.
mean,
to
I
do-
don't mean it in a way, but they don't have enough officers to cover the county as it is. And I can't imagine how they're gonna try to, add this many additional families.
Chairperson Viant, Chairwoman Viant brought up a comment to me on the phone that let me research some stuff. And actually it's just recollecting my memory. And that was something to do, apparently these thresholds of public services, including sewer, are tested right now. And I don't mean to, I hope my memory's right, but Chairperson Viant, did you refer to something about the sewer system, like a pump broke and there was a big legal issue regarding the existing sewage system or something?
Yes, several times.
Several times.
Yeah.
I started examining this property a year ago. I contacted a bunch of municipalities and I spoke with Chuck Smith because he was the man in charge of the Arley and Lake County Sewer District. And Chuck said that, and I'm going to be off on some of this, but I'll be close. Somewhere around 2005, the county invested in a big infrastructure for the sewer, and they were kind of hoping on 40, really were needing 20 connections, new connections every year. And he said, heck, they haven't gotten 40 since then. And because of it, they aren't collecting any money for the sewer, not just the $1,525 to initially connect, but the monthly fee for the sewer. And because of it, they don't have the operations and maintenance fund on a regular basis. And he says, boy, if you can bring up, get enough connections and monthly income, just like any utility, then the operations and maintenance will have a much better budget. And he drove me around the whole town and he showed me this property. And that was about November last year. So, a lot of these services, and I already got a letter from the sheriff, by the way, yesterday, right here from the sheriff's office. Sheriff's plans on, if in a couple of years, the people coming from Missoula, because they're gonna, and I'm working with builders in Missoula now, and I have 4 that are being asked by people to build in this area. They'll go buy off of someone on 40 acres or 20 out in the hills, and they'll put in a shared well and shared septic. You'll start seeing sprawl up through all the hills around Arlee. Look like you're in Y, looking towards Frenchtown. Won't look good.
Okay,
And everybody can drive to cover those services, all that lineal footage, the sheriff, the school bus, and all that. Or it's designed as planned growth in one area. And boy,
Who's
policemen.
gonna pay for this? It's gonna be the community, and that's why I think public comment. Me, Charmel, and Shelley were at a school board meeting in Polson, and they were gonna build some additional buildings to the Polson school system, and that was a I think it was a $43 million expansion. And you look at the number of kids that they were bringing in, it wasn't very many at all. And you're looking at bringing at this amount. There's got to be some expansive planning for that school system, for that whole community, but especially the school system. They're already breaking at the seams, and you bring this many people. So I don't know what we need to do, but this cannot just happen just like that.
Right.
I mean, I think the county has let us down without having.
I think you get the comment, and there's going to be a hearing in order to entitle anything like this. They're telling me that it is.
But I don't know if we can depend on that. I mean, you've already started. You've already put the community in a tailspin, and I don't know how they can just sit by. And well, I know Madam Chair's not just sitting by; she's
Right.
pretty heated about it. But man,
I think you need to think about the people that have lived here for thousands
I
of
am
years.
not
before you
trying,
just-
I am not trying to do anything that
And
hurts
I'm not
any.
trying to be disrespectful, but I'm
You're
pretty
not.
angry right now about this whole thing and in the fashion it's moving forward. I'm done, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So we looked at
Did you have
this.
something?
Yes, I had a
Lynn
comment.
and then Martin and then Janet.
Okay, thank you. And, yeah, I guess this will be my comment for the record, but, you know, I'm fairly certain that we don't even have 99 tribal homes within the town site of Arlee. And, to make such a drastic change, within this community, you know, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of people that are upset about this. But here's the problem we've had is since we've been dealing with the pandemic, we've had a huge influx of people from Texas, from California, just from all over. They have all swarmed up here to our reservation. And a lot of them just do not have the understanding or even taken the time to learn our history. This is the last of our homeland here. If you may or may not know, our people owned Western Montana and some into Idaho and Washington. That was our land. And what was taken from us and given to us was what little we have left here. And as I mentioned, I'm sure that there are a lot of people that have not taken time to learn that history. The people that we have dealt with recently during this pandemic have been, and I don't want to say all of them, but many of them have been disrespectful to our lands. And we have found out that many of them were out of state. None of them didn't know our culture, didn't even want to understand what our culture is. So by proposing a 99 lot subdivision, that's going to be attracting a lot of people from out of state over here. And it's going to be a hindrance on a lot of our resources. And as I mentioned before, you know, Arlee, the Jocko Valley is growing drastically, you know, just within the last 10 years itself. And then to have a huge subdivision like this is just very, it's very troubling for me, you know, but as somebody's mentioned before, we will not infringe on your private property rights. Okay, we understand that you have a right to do with what you want on your land. We may not like it, but you're going to hear about it. And we have a right to that public comment. And as we move forward with that public comment period, that's all they are comments. They're not, there's really nothing ever becomes of what the public, well, I don't want to say the public, well, what typically nothing really happens with their comments. They're heard, but they're just taken off record. And but I do appreciate the fact that you did come in and visit with us on this, because you know, that takes a lot to come up and do that. So we appreciate that. So I just wanted to express my concern to you and what some of my constituents have been relaying to me about this project, because you know, you are aware that this is adjacent to our powwow grounds.
Yep.
We have our 4th of July celebration there every year. And when people are so used of coming to the powwow every year, and then all of a sudden they see this huge subdivision right next to our powwow ground. I mean, sure, there's going to be a lot of frowning on it, but anyway, those are my comments. And once again, I'd want to thank you for taking the time to visit with us today.
Thank you, Len. Martin?
Thank you. And thank you for coming in. I grew up in Arley. So I've seen the changes over the last, my lifetime, which depends on who you ask, isn't long. And, this is, any way you look at this, it's going to be terrible for that community. You build high-end homes, you're going to have it be a breakfast community or a retirement community. You build low-income housing, we'll have all the things associated with that. Arley is already pretty much a breakfast community of Missoula, been that for years. As you well know, I'm sure as a developer, breakfast communities don't really contribute a lot to the actual community. They don't really care what goes on there. They go there, they sleep there, and then they go into Missoula and they do their business. They don't spend money in that community. And so you as a developer, I appreciate you coming in, but you're just, this is just lip service. What happens when the people in that community start complaining about the powwow because it goes 24 hours for, 4 days in a row? Then we'll have to, then the county will be stepping in. Like you are being very nearsighted with this. You've said you've done your research, but you have a lot to learn about that community, especially that little area right there. That powwow has been going on for 100+ years. And, yeah, private land, great. But, some consideration, like it's change, and Arley is already a changed community. You look at Jocko Road, you look at the south side of Arley, the amount of development in those areas, it's unbelievable. It's not the same place I grew up in. The population has probably increased, yet the services are the same. And you're going to come in here and tell us what we want to hear. And maybe what you should research is the adversarial position that we've had with Lake County, and that they don't frankly care about us. And so, 99 houses is just ridiculous. And, I don't even think we're in a position that we can do anything about it.
I think in a water rights framework, you can.
Well, thanks, Seth. And I don't know. It's just another person coming to the reservation and taking advantage of the laws here, taking advantage of a conservative county, and taking advantage of the people. And that's the history of this reservation. Go back and look at the Dawes Act. Go back and look at the allotment of this reservation. We are a minority on our own reservation. We've done as much as we can to aggressively buy back our reservation, but it was just given away in an allotment. And here we are, 100 years later, and I would guess, just guessing, the time frame you're saying, this is probably allotted land. So to natives, that's stolen land, and that's what you're purchasing, that's what you're developing. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Charmel and then Janet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Bauer, for coming in today. As you can probably feel right now, this is a very emotional issue for our people here, because this is our reservation and because there are tools such as the Lake County growth policy that doesn't really seem to reflect the needs of the indigenous people of this land. And so there's a lot that you're going to experience that have to do with that, and rightfully so. I definitely agree with the comments made by my colleagues here today. This is a really heartbreaking sort of a presentation, I think, to our people because of that. And I hope you understand that.
I'm getting to understand that.
Yeah, and because we've been here all of our lives, and because our grandparents and so forth, and the community of Arlee is an example of a very important community to us, a tribal community. And it's difficult for us to see the complexion of that threatened by such a large development. But what I wanted to say about the part of your introduction stated that, you know, you chose Lake County specifically for some, I'm sure, you know, rational reasons. But I think one of those things that makes it one of your priority options possibly is the fact that the growth policy and the density plan regulations are what they are right now. And I may be just reading more into this than is there, but I, you know, I listened to the planning board at Lake County receive the comments, the public comments on the density management regulations, and then the county commissioners move forward kind of in spite of those public comments. And so that's, I think, what Len is referring to, Councilman Tuteep is referring to, how, you know, sometimes what happens at the other local government level doesn't really reflect the overall sentiments of our community. And in this case, I want to say that the density map regulations, when I read this policy, it says that they were adopted in 2005 and they reflect a different economy. And so in 2018, when they chose to use them as more of a guidance, it was with the, I guess with the idea that the local economy hadn't really been changing, and that there was, you know, a different situation then, that they felt comfortable, I guess, lifting the density regulations at that time. But what's happened since then is quite different. So I really hope that we as a tribal government can pursue amendments to this Lake County growth plan at this time, for the fact that, you know, we are in a different situation today. We have had a huge influx of people migrating to this area, and, you know, we don't have another reservation to turn our people over to. I mean, you know, this is it. This is our home. And so we're going to do everything we can, I'm sure, to try to preserve our tribal communities that remain, because there are very few that remain untouched by, you know, the influx after the opening, the what I would say is illegal opening of our reservation. So I really hope that that we can ask our legal team to move forward with helping us get some discussion on amending this density map regulation and the Lake County growth plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Charmel. Janet?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. When I saw this proposal, so I'm the planning director for the tribes, and I've spoken with Lake County about this proposal. And my I was told that this is just a preliminary application. There has been no formal application filed at this time. But there has been some comment from the planners at Lake County. This is within the growth area for Arlee because it's within the sewer district. However, subdivision regulations require cultural clearance from the tribes. And I don't know if you've reached out to the Tribal Historic Preservation Office yet, but that would be a requirement by the county that you get that clearance. And the other issue is we have to look at impacts to traffic. We have to look at impacts to groundwater. Even though this is on a sewer system, there are stormwater runoff issues where 99 lots in such a small area, you're going to have oil leaking from cars, you're going to have antifreeze, you're going to have other things, people dumping chemicals in their lawn. The soils in this area are highly permeable. So a huge concentration of development is not good for the aquifer. And I asked Seth Makepeace to not only talk about the water quality issues, but the water quantity issues, because you're talking about 50 shared wells potentially, and that's significant. And so if I don't want to keep Seth any longer, I appreciate that he joined us on this call, and I'd like to hear from Seth if we could, so he could address those water issues. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Lieutenant.
council members, Mr. Bauer, good afternoon. I'm Mr. Bauer. I'm Seth Makepeace. I'm a longstanding groundwater hydrologist and surface water hydrologist with the tribes. I would like to bring up 3 points at the moment. One is related to the irrigation water project. FIP was authorized and constructed to support agriculture, not at the tribe's request, certainly, but it was. And so the reallocation of FIP water to irrigate 99 lawns, while approvable by FIP, is a sort of a bastardization of the intent of the irrigation project and the intent of the tribe's water rights settlement to rehabilitate the project. I don't think there's a response needed there, but I do think it's important that you understand that you will be provided a turnout and you will receive the quota. You will not receive a fixed volume of water. You will receive the quota that the rest of the valley receives, and you likely will alternate between the north and the south side of the valley and not have water in the August and September period in moderate to dry years. That's the way it works now. That's what you should anticipate in the future. Point number 2, I'm sorry to be so terse. Unfortunately, I have 3 different phone calls at 2 and I can't only do this. So the Jocko Valley aquifer system underlying your property, the water table is between 60 and 80 feet, plus or minus. It is unconfined. In other words, there's no barrier from surface to groundwater. And it's a productive aquifer, no doubt, but it's vulnerable to surface contaminants. That's well recognized. And it's a gravel pit immediately south of the proposed development site is ample layperson demonstration of the permeability and vulnerability of the sediments to groundwater contamination. Recognize that you have a septic plan that would go to the Lake County land application system, but lawn chemicals, stormwater runoff, unanticipated events can infiltrate to the aquifer system. The third and most substantial point I would bring forward is that it distresses me personally that you're proposing up to 50 individual wells. All of these wells will need to be permitted through the pending Unitary Management Ordinance Board. If you go, you cannot permit these through DNRC. The maximum allowance will be 35 gallons a minute and 2.4 acre feet. And you have to get pre-approval for each well before they're drilled. Obviously, you're perhaps going to subdivide and not be involved in that, but the upcoming landowners will be involved in that. And I can't speak to your intent or your plans, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's very common in Montana for developers to propose large densities of domestic wells to avoid community water permitting requirements. Under the unitary management ordinance, the domestic allowances would receive de minimis permit review. That's just the way the ordinance is written. Whereas a community water supply, such as the 2 tribal developments in our lead, would require an adverse effects analysis to senior surface water rights. It is demonstrable and irrefutable that the groundwater is interconnected to the Jocko River, and this development, the consumptive use volume from this development would adversely affect the tribe's senior water rights in the Jocko River. And a community water supply would require mitigation to those adverse effects, whereas the individual domestic allowances could circumvent that if the Unitary Management Board did not advocate for that. A tool that the tribes have is to immediately upon inception of the UMO petition for a special groundwater management area in the circle around the Jocko Valley and request that unique and criteria be applied there. So the tribes do have some tools at their disposal here. I don't want you to feel, council members, that you're toothless in this sense. I have some feelings about this development because I'm looking out for the Jocko River in much sense here, and it's technically very, very easy to document that they're interconnected resources, and what we call pre-stream capture, the Smith River cases in Montana. It is the law of the land that a large development has to mitigate adverse effects to senior surface or groundwater rights. And so I am concerned with the individual domestic wells as a workaround and as a 50 straws into the aquifer rather than 1 or 2 straws into the aquifer. And I'm also concerned because I think, as the council members do recognize, growth will occur in the Jocko Valley. But if the tribes or the Lake County want to at some point develop community water along Jocko Road, having these 50 individual domestic wells sitting there is a burden to that community water supply planning, that future intelligent growth planning. So again, I just kind of shotgunned you with some points there. I can stay on for some time here. Yeah.
Since his time is valuable, I'm happy to reply to a couple of those comments.
Go ahead.
In respect to his time. And Councilwoman Camels as well. First of all, the stormwater quality issue for the road and storm has been brought up. And we have requests that there be swales and roadside dishes, and there can be pre-treatment grassy swales put in that will break down oils, and that other states call it a low impact development method, and they're going to it actually rather than man-made concrete structures and things like that. But if this is as pervious as Councilman Makepeace says, then, sir, then I understand that to keep the water quality good, something like that, we would be agreeable to doing that. I don't think it's in Lake County's code, and I have not seen it. So please understand, but this would be something that what we would consider. In terms of the water usage and consumption, I was told by the people over, I've got a letter here from Lawrence Nelson, and I've met 3 people on site. And there's an existing irrigation ditch that comes down. This is the last property on, I think it's gate 8 or gate 80. It's further east along Powwow Road.
Yaco R2 canal, and there's a gate at the end of it, yes.
There's a gate at the end. This is, because my question was, well, who's downstream from us? Are we gonna, dry this thing up? And they said, no, you're at the very last property on the end of it. And they said, actually, the water this is what they said to me, is the water that comes down the ditch, half of it infiltrates out. It isn't even used right now for irrigation on the Armstrong farm. And we asked this of them, and we've asked and asked, but they say, give it to them in a plan and such is and this is a question to you, Mr. Makepeace, is we said in one of our parks, what if we put in on the most southeast portion of the property, you'll see a park about 1.5 acres or so. And we said, what if we put in an acre-sized pond and we line it with rubber and we use it as conservation, wherein when the water is flowing, we let this fill up. And then in August and September, and we've done the calculations. I have a builder that looked at this, and they used to have a landscaping company. In fact, he built one of these in Roseburg, Oregon for the Veterans Memorial Cemetery in Roseburg. And they use it as they use it for irrigation. And he did the calcs. He goes, this would take care of all of these houses in irrigation for 1.5 to 2 months. We'd put a fence around it and that, kind of like a Grand Coulee Dam, kind of standard old conservation. And I'm talking with the BIA about this, but we were thinking that was a provision, as well as piping from where it enters our property. Instead of it running it down a ditch 500 feet long and infiltrating, we pipe it over to this reservoir, and we can have an outflow if we get too much, just as it does now. Because I seen it. You're right. It infiltrates when it hits that ground. It goes right into it infiltrates right away. And we were looking at that also for the fire department, for their tenders. They wanted 6,000 gallon chamber. And it's like, well, how about 1 million gallon? And so these ideas came to mind, and that's what we were proposing. I just thought I'd respond to you because it sounds
Sure.
like you gave it a lot of thought on your concerns.
Comment?
Your
Go ahead, Len.
points
Well,
that,
Madam Chair,
excuse me,
we can discuss mitigating factors all day long. And I don't think that was the intent of this meeting. We we shared our views with Mr. Bauer. We let him know that we're very adamant that we don't agree with this project. And we will do what we can to address those issues that Seth has brought up, because now our water rights have come up. And that is something that we have fought for years and years and years, and we finally have come to a conclusion on that. And now it is being challenged on a project such as this. So I just wanted to mention that, and now that he is aware, we will also start letting know the county planning process, our views, and let them know. But once again, I want to thank Mr. Bauer for coming in and taking the time to visit with us on this. It's shows respect, and like I said, we're not here to disrespect your property rights, but we just want to let you know that we don't agree with the project.
Yep.
So thank you.
No disrespect
Thanks, Len.
taken. Thank you.
Shermal, did you have some? No? Okay, I just wanted to say, Well, I appreciate you reaching out with a phone call last week. I still have not received your certified letter of materials that you said you sent. And while you addressed us as a stakeholder, I think you need to understand that we are a sovereign nation. We have a government to government relationship with the United States. In our treaty of 1855, the Bitterroot Salish, which is the tribe that I come from, we were in the Bitterroot Valley. We did not want to leave there. We stayed there for 40 years until the Army forcibly removed us in our own Trail of Tears. Most of my people camped in Arlee so they could be as close as possible to the Bitterroot Valley. And since we've been here for a little over 150 years, which isn't a long time in Indian country. You know, my great-great-grandmother walked that Trail of Tears at age 50. And so you have to understand what this place means to us. Just this morning, we talked about closing our reservation lands to non-members, or looking at increasing our conservation permits 5 times what it costs a non-member now, because we're being overrun with climate change refugees, COVID refugees. We go in our mountains right now and, you know, I see a RV from Minnesota, you know, camping at the lake where we like to go fishing, and leaving their trash behind. And we, like someone said earlier, this is our last place. We have nowhere else to go. And when we started seeing people come in from Texas and California and wherever, we closed off our lands last summer, the summer of 2020. We closed off our reservation lands. Well, since that time, we've had a lot of people buy property within the reservation boundaries. And someone had talked about the Allotment Act, and, you know, which our land was illegally taken, sold out from under us. And that's why we are in the predicament that we're in today, because of that. And I've seen a lot of people, a lot of businesses come in and take advantage of the tax issues here in the community of Arlee, where I live. And I don't appreciate that. But I think this will affect our decision that we were faced with this morning about closing off tribal lands to non-members and maybe to even residents. If you're going to bring in 90 more families, and that's going to be 90 more people potentially up in the mountains in the Jocko, I think this will probably affect our decision that way. You know, in the little area where I live out in the Jocko Valley, there's 6 new homes going up this past summer.
Yeah.
Where when I used to ride the school bus on that same road, there was maybe 6 houses total. And now there's all these divisions and there's all these people, and people don't wave at you on the road anymore. People don't know who their neighbors are. And as a result, we're having to lock our doors and, you know, be that kind of a community. And I can't express enough about how important the water is to us. You've heard from our water expert, Seth, that this is just not feasible for our little valley. Water is life. It's the lifeblood of our planet. And there's not that much water in Arlee. The house where I grew up, our well went dry in 1988, and we had to get a new well dug. I'm just waiting for the day my well goes dry a quarter mile down the road. So, you know, that's not to even mention the effect that, you know, all of this is going to have on our wildlife. Our someone mentioned our schools, you know, our other community services. So you know, I think we have a lot of issues to address. And we've invested a lot of money, a lot of human capital, and 4 decades of negotiations with the state of Montana and the US government on our water compact. And so and we take that very seriously. That was our main priority for 4 decades. And so this isn't something that we're going to take lightly. So I do appreciate you coming in today at my invitation. And, you know, I want you to understand that we're more than a stakeholder in your process, that we are a sovereign nation.
I understand a sovereign nation, ma'am.
And we, into that regard, we are on a different level than Lake County and their planning department or the state DNRC or anyone. We are a sovereign nation.
I understand difference between Vatican and Rome, difference between Botswana and South Africa. I've been both. So you guys have not been disrespectful to me. And I'm sorry, you probably hate me. But I appreciate, you know, you guys have treated me good. I'm sorry that this has meant such, you know, been difficult. Is there anything else? I'll just excuse myself.
Mike?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike, I'm just going to ask straight up, why are you doing this?
I don't know how to do anything else very good. If you want the truth. I live in Perma. This, what I've done. And Arlie's a nice area. My wife loves it. The energy. You know, the names you come up with, although I asked Madam Chairperson, you know, maybe if you can help me with a couple names, I need to name some roads and stuff. My wife comes up with Serene Arlie, because that's how it feels. I know the builders around Missoula and that, even though I haven't been here very many years. And they want to, their people are wanting to get out of Missoula, they're driving themselves nuts. And as Madam Chairperson says, they're on her road, they're all over, they're going to sprawl. This kind of clusters them in an area, but the number's big, you're right. But it's on the sewer. It's like, it's just planned growth. But the reason I do it, I don't know how to, I'm not a mechanic, I'm not a musician or any of that. This is just like I'm a trade guy. This is my trade. But I do my best on a lot of stuff. I've worked in our court system in Puget Sound before, helping with testamentary subdivisions. It's kind of like jury duty. You don't make much, but you help solve problems. Worked for the FDIC and banks in the downturn just as a consultant to get out of the fraud out. And then we're changing RCWs, state of Washington, to protect people from onerous HOAs and things. But I didn't know it was going to be this big of a bad thing till today. Honestly didn't. Just thought if it's sewer and we put them all there and all the services aren't running around like chickens with their head cut off trying to service people sprawl all over the hills and look like heck. I don't know. I got a feeling people are coming anyway, unless you change your rules inside your sovereign nation. And I respect that too. I live inside it. You know, my wife loves it. So I didn't know I was going to get this.
Well, I respect that. And I don't appreciate this project, but we do have housing needs. There's no doubt about that as well.
Yeah. But you guys been nice to me. Don't get me wrong.
So I was in Bozeman last weekend and there's a lot of land for sale around Three Forks and Livingston and that. So there's for sale signs everywhere. I offer to buy your property from you and have you go develop somewhere else?
Who, me? I have a couple parcels and a couple of them on the river. I wrote to y'all a year ago and said, tribe likes it on the river, Flathead. No one replied. I've got the emails and everything. I emailed it. If you don't believe me, I can forward it, but the offer ain't good anymore because I set something up for our family. But I did. Have a nice day. Huh? I just figured you guys like the Flathead too. I sent an email out on the extra parcels. Never got a reply. My wife says that's where it belongs. We never got a reply.
Okay, next we have SNK Business Services. I believe we're going to go into executive session. We'll go out of regular into executive.